So hi everyone, welcome back to our Solidity tutorial series. Today we're going to deep dive into reverting transactions in Solidity and how to recover a minimum ether deposit in the constructor. Let's get started. Solidity reverting transaction is crucial to ensure that a smart contract behaves correctly and securely. The main opcode to the main opcode used to revert a transaction is revert, and there are three more ways to invoke it, that are assert, require, and revert. But today we will focus on require and revert. Let's start with the require statement. It has two forms. Require checks a condition and reverse the transaction if the condition is false. It's commonly used to validate input logics and ensure that certain conditions are met before proceeding with the function's logic. Now let's talk about the revert keyword. It also reverts the transaction and has two forms. Unlike require, revert does not take a boolean condition. Instead, it always reverses the transaction, and it's typically used within conditional statement to provide custom error messages. So you may ask, why custom error messages? Because in Solidity, custom errors are more gas efficient. In Solidity, we have convenient ether units to handle large amounts of ether. For example, 1 ether is equivalent to 118 V. This makes it easy to work with ether without having to manually convert it to V. Now let's move on to our task today. We need to add a payable constructor to our contract, and we require a minimum deposit of 1 ether when deploying the contract. This will help ensure that contract starts with a sufficient amount of funds. Now let's start with the owner initialization. The owner is set to the address that deploys the contract. Now we need to add a payable constructor. Remember, the constructor should be marked as payable to accept the ether. So as you can see, we have used the require keyword to ensure that only the owner can call this function. If the condition is false, it reverts with the error messages that this is not the owner. If the condition states true, then it transfers the contract's balance to the owner. Now let's check the validation tabs. You can see it passes all our validation. Now let's run our code. As you can see, our code runs successfully.